I like games.
If you were someone growing up in the 2000s, chances are, gaming's just your thing. We've seen gaming vary anywhere from simple Nintendo to large-scale MMOs such as Wizard 101 and Club Penguin. Personally, I was more of a fan guy myself. But alas, all of these ended up being really good standalone projects, and as a kid, I was obsessed with cartoons and everything animated. Yes, even Robot Chicken. I wasn't the only one watching it very young. But no, seriously. Knowing my love for cartoons and video games early on, there's only one game that still has my heart in MMO form. Cartoon Network's FusionFall. For any of you that don't recall, Cartoon Network FusionFall was marketed as an MMOOG, or a massively multiplayer online game for all likeliness of Cartoon Network media. This included anywhere from Finn from Adventure Time to Fuzzy Lumpkins from the Powerpuff Girls. Hell, they even got Tom from Toonami in this bitch. The game's story essentially was very simple. There's an unstoppable force that travels the galaxy collecting worlds, and he has now made his way to the planet Earth and begun an invasion on Cartoon Network's most popular regions and lands. This force is driven by someone known as Lord Fuse, and he's managed to corrupt and take over our favorite heroes, and it's up to all of us to save the world. Now child, we know Cartoon Network has some of the, and I mean the, strongest characters. I'm sorry, but if Samurai Jack, the entirety of the Powerpuff Girls, and my guy Tom from Toonami aren't taking this thing out, now what am I going to do with a blowhorn from Codename Kids Next Door? I mean, come on. You're telling me this chick ain't taking out the entire Fuse by herself? Yeah, okay. But Cartoon Network found a way to actually make it believable. We create our own characters and gear that you can tell is clearly inspired by Cartoon Network shows, rightfully. And you go through missions that are actually engaging simply because of the IPs that Cartoon Network owns. I mean, who doesn't want to see what Courage would look like in an anime universe? I mean, look at this. In today's world, Cartoon Network had gold sitting in front of them. So one can only ask, what went wrong? Well, today is much different than back then. With the release date of January 14, 2009, FusionFall was officially launched and available to play all over. However, the FusionFall that initially released was behind a $10 paywall, and for us as kids, $10 was the world. And this is cheap, but realistic. The game eventually went free to play a year later on April 19, 2010, and this is where things started to pick up and at the same time fall. The game had a short run of 4 years, and its closure was announced on August 23, 2013. I keep in mind that the game actually ended up closing days later on August 29, 2013. During this time of closure, all players became level 36, which is the max level, and had unlimited in-game currency as well. Nobody is really sure what exactly caused the game's shutdown, though many speculations point to the fact that the game went free to play no shorter than a year later from its release date, or the typical company excuse, "We have to stop this project due to lack of interest, womp womp." Either way, it's a known fact that if you played this game, you probably want it back. Now, the question is how? How does FusionFall make a return, and could it? Well, that's the thought that often gets me stuck between a rock and a hard place. If you keep up with the game, MMOs, or Cartoon Network in general, then you probably know there have been several FusionFall reboots by fans. And hell, some have actually been really good. But of course, haters do exist, and no good deed goes unpunished. In late December of 2016, a team that specializes in MMO games announced that they were reviving FusionFall, and eventually later even went as far as updating visuals, pre-existing characters, UI, adding new characters, maps, and making the game as playable as possible. And mind you, this was all for free. Now, I played the game myself and enjoyed every moment of it, honestly. The fan game, that is. It was refreshing to have good graphics, the OG story and playstyle, alongside new characters we were starting to become familiar with, and their locations. Well, what went wrong here? Oh, nothing. Just what usually does. Fan entitlement. On April 26th of 2020, months into the pandemic mind you, FusionFall Universe announced publicly that they have received a DMCA takedown request from Cartoon Network, which the team more than gladly agreed to without protest. I mean, they're just fans after all, what can they do? Now if you kept up with this company or the entire fan-made game, you probably know that early on in production, Cartoon Network actually gave FusionFall Retro the thumbs up for production. So what went wrong here? Well, as stated earlier, fan entitlement. A Discord user by the name of Indies went out of his way to ensure the game shut down, and honestly I'm appalled on both ends. The story goes like this allegedly and factually. Indies initially liked FusionFall Retro, and supported it even by playing, but he wanted things in the game that the devs I guess didn't agree to, or didn't even have the time to do. So he went to Cartoon Network and emailed them lies stating that the game was paid and making money, and had presence of pedophilia, which is wild because you did all this for why? I mean, if you guys could only see half the things they were trying to create on their own to put into this game, I'm sure they were booked and busy. but I'll leave the link to the wiki in the description so you can see for yourself. This game was dope, y'all. Now, the takedown doesn't shock me, but it shocks me because as far as I'm concerned, there's two sides to this. Now, full disclosure, everything I'm about to say is pure speculation in my opinion. I'd love to hear yours, but I need to disclose this only because I'm trying to work for Adult Swim in a few years, and I don't need Cartoon Network on my back. Now, on one side, let's say Cartoon Network genuinely cared about their brand and were genuinely concerned about the state of the game being paid or the presence of pedophilia as falsely reported. How hard is it to send a rep to find out, join the Discord, or hell, even email the devs requiring proof that this is false? Hell, why not even ask the reportee to provide proof? I mean, I can't even report face value racism to Discord without them saying, they deleted the message, so you're lying. So I know it doesn't take much to get proof. Now, on the other hand, here's my theory. I honestly think Cartoon Network was embarrassed to see a group of people were making a fully updated immersive world for free and able to actually pull it off better than they as a company were able to previously. Now, I'm not certain, but doesn't it seem like Cartoon Network was all too quick to shut this down without proper investigation? Once again, I played the game and there was no paid options, or do I even have to say the other one? It's a game about cartoon characters, for God's sake. The entire thing was wild and quite frankly disheartening because we do seem to live in an era where hatred thrives and good deeds do indeed go punished. However, upon writing this video, or the script at least, I have come across some more evidence which suggests the takedown of FusionFall Retro was inevitable? Okay, so remember the Indies guy I was talking about earlier? Let's revisit his case for a little bit. So our story spawns from a user by the name of Dark Red Titan, who took to Reddit to explain that not only do they share a common server with Indies, who ladies and gentlemen is in fact not as toxic as we know him to be allegedly, but he also is in fact not the reason that the game got taken down. Dark Red Titan states that there were actually 2 emails sent to Cartoon Network about the game, in which resulted in takedown requests, which to me is still quite little to get something the plug pulled on, but also Warner took to Reddit to say this about the entire situation, and it raises some questions about a lot that I stated earlier. So Warner says the devs of FusionFall Retro didn't have the permission to use their IPs, and they detected infringement. But remember I said they did give them permission? Well, I'm not the only one who remembers. There seems to be some sort of disconnect. So it turns out that the devs of the OG FusionFall and Cartoon Network originally gave those creating FusionFall Retro the green light. And get this, they gave them files and assets to remake the game, but upon the influx of malicious emails, they ended up taking the game down. It all doesn't make sense, and if you want more of that story, the Reddit link is below in the description. So, to wrap this video up, one can only wonder, how could Cartoon Network themselves recreate this game FusionFall and do it correctly this time? Well, luckily for them, we live in an era where free-to-play plus microtransactions is simply the way to go. Now, I've had this hot debate with some people in a Discord for another FusionFall remake I've been playing, and it gave me a run for my money, but I'm an Aries and I stand by what I believe. Cartoon Network could bring this game back, and it could thrive. Here's how and why. We live in a current generation where many people game on PC. This was, and always is, the primary target for FusionFall anyways. Sorry for all my entitled Switch players out there. No ports in mind here. Cartoon Network since 2013 has come out with a lot to work with in terms of content for FusionFall. I mean, you know how many fans Steven Universe and the Gems would rake in for them alone as a DLC world? They could also dip into a Battle Pass style XP system where you gain Battle Pass XP for completing specific things such as a certain type of enemy killed, amount of ability used by nanos, something. And yeah, it's always a gamble with paid things, but back when FusionFall initially released, it was a time where parents were a bit more weary of swiping the old debit or credit card online. In video games, especially nowadays, you find microtransactions almost in every game you play. It's become the new norm, honestly. The game also was drawn in an anime style. This strikes really good with today's viewers, and anime has been on an incline I think Cartoon Network gave up too early on. The designs were really good for the time as well, and even went on to offspring an entire manga for the FusionFall series. However Cartoon Network chooses to do it, if they decide to do it, it would be wise for them to pick up the project while people still care. I know this is my first video, but if you got through it all, thank you so much. My Discord is in the description below as well. What video game from the past do you want to see make a return? Thank you guys for watching so much. I'm Renuri, and I gotta go fight some fuses, honestly.